Now, One Piece chapter 1051, and my goodness, this was honestly a great chapter. One that honestly made me a fan of Momonosuke. Granted, I've always defended Momonosuke when it came down to him growing as a character, because here we come to see that all those moments that he's had, the emotional build-up, the intensity of the war, him being a child in a situation where he couldn't do anything, and the growth that he's had thus far, honestly throughout Wano has been some of the best character arc we've seen in this arc. And seeing everything come full circle and into realization in this chapter was honestly a masterclass. Like, I really liked what we got with Momonosuke in the entirety of Wano, even though there are some moments where people didn't like his character, but it also made sense at the same time. So again, when it comes to Momonosuke, he's goated. This chapter might honestly put him in like a top 5 best characters in Wano, because again, his story arc is just amazing. When you go back and look at the things that Oda put in there, the build up, all of that, right? I think Momonosuke is actually a very good character, and I cannot wait to see where this leads on for him, because there's a lot of things that we need to talk about in terms of Momonosuke's future and what direction Oda is going to take that. But this chapter, I have to say, was definitely one for the book. But as usual, guys, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, hit the bell if you want to get notified for future videos, and subscribe if you're new here. Now, let's start from the beginning. Now, this chapter is essentially a continuation of the previous chapter, in which we come to see the reactions of the flower capitals and its citizens to the 9 scabbards making their appearance. Initially, they were scared because they didn't necessarily know what was happening. First, they saw a dragon, which kind of indicates that that was Kaido. But as they started to truly know what was happening, things started to change, in which people stopped running away and started to notice what was happening. It was essentially a procession for Momonosuke's proclamation to be the next shogun of Wano. It started out with the scabbards, with each of them making their appearance. Of course, with Komurosaki and Denjiro, they were people that the citizens already knew about, so they don't really count, but it mattered more so about the individuals that supposedly died 20 years ago. And of course, these are the other scabbards that we're talking about here. Kinemon was the first to be revealed. Obviously, being the leader of the scabbards, his appearance had to be first, right? And then of course we got Inu, Kamawatsu, Raizo, Okiku, and Neko. And at this point, the citizens were just surprised that this was actually happening, to the point that they thought it was a dream. And it makes sense, because this was 20 years in the making, right? Some people believed in the prophecy, but they never actually thought it would come to reality, right? So you can imagine the emotion that was building up here, and them sort of getting that gratification for making it this far for this day to be realized. And as news started to spread, this was something that they absolutely had to share with the rest of Wano, and so the entire thing was broadcasted. And we end off this section with Momonosuke's introduction, and I have to say, this was a amazing reveal to Momonosuke's adult form, right? And I completely understand why Oda was saving it, because this moment just made his reveal even better, I think. Because I think a lot of people were of the mindset that it was going to be shown to Kaido for Kaido to remember Odin's face. But then again, you have to remember that Momonosuke himself said that he isn't his father, even though people want to compare him to his father. And so his face getting revealed here had a greater impact than it would have with Kaido. And not only that, we come to see that Momonosuke doesn't really resemble Odin as much as I thought, but his design is amazing. Like, this honestly just tells me that Oda chooses purposely not to give people good designs, because this is one of the best designs we've had in all of Wano. Now, this was the design I personally thought someone like Green Bull would have, right? But yeah, Momonosuke's adult form, his design is amazing. He honestly looks like someone that is a top tier combatant. Like, he would be like a top tier in the One Piece world. I could legitimately see Momonosuke be as strong as the admirals and the Yonkos in the future, and most definitely surpassing Odin, right? Definitely an A1 design from Oda right here. Initially, I was like, there's no way that this is Momonosuke, because of what he was saying in his speech, right? His delivery was so amazing that I thought it was a different character. But we come to find out that everything that he was saying was given to him by Kinemon. So that was a really funny thing at the end. And again, it makes a lot of sense, because, you know, Momonosuke is still a child, but the fact that he had that conviction, devotion, and just bravery overall to say this in front of this many people, you definitely have to put respect on Momonosuke's name. And even at the end here in his speech, he does say something that came from his own heart, right? And this is the fruits of his labor, right? The struggles that he's been through this entire arc. We've seen that growth and build up finally being realized here, and it was honestly a great moment to see. Yeah, Momonosuke is goated, guys. And of course, once he was done with his proclamation of being the new shogun of Wano, the citizens of the flower capital and the entirety of Wano accepted him right away, because again, they thought Momonosuke had died. Him coming back here in his adult form with the 9 scabbards, claiming to have defeated Orochi and Kaido, they had no reason to not acknowledge him. Now, interestingly, at the end, we get the narrator, coming in and delivering some sort of foreshadowing to the events that will happen in the future. Here, it was stated that Momonosuke would eventually become one of the greatest leaders of Wano, and that everyone had just witnessed the birth of the great shogun Kozuki Momonosuke. So we know for certain that Momonosuke is going to live up to his name. Regardless of how you think things should have played out, this chapter was honestly a great delivery from Oda, and the glow up we get from Momonosuke here was honestly godlike. But definitely cannot wait to see what the future has in store for Momonosuke, because it seems like he's going to be very vital for the story moving forward. Now, I do also want to point out that we do get some very interesting details about Otama, as this was very personal for her as well, and we come to find out that her parents were essentially factory work, and at some point they died from working in udon, right, which essentially made her an orphan. And as time kept moving, she eventually started selling hats to keep feeding herself. And it's interesting to point out that Kamachio, the dog that she's with, has always been with her, which makes a lot of sense now because we know that he's very loyal to her, even without the Kibidango, right? Now, after some time, she eventually meets Tenguyama, in which he tells her that she should keep struggling because the time of reckoning will eventually come. And I'm guessing that's the point where he started taking care of her. And of course, after realizing things are going to change for the better, Tama eventually breaks down, right? I think this was a really cool addition that Oda added here because we didn't really know much about Tama, except that she didn't have any parents, so we assumed that more than likely her parents died. But seeing how they died from something that was created from Orochi and Kaido definitely makes this flashback hit a lot harder, because Tama is just one example of the pain that Kaido caused the people of Wano. So this was definitely a bittersweet moment for Tama for sure. Now, we finally end off the chapter with Yamato joining the crew unofficially. Now, I say unofficially because we haven't gotten confirmation from the captain himself, right? Because Luffy is always the deciding factor of whether a character joins the crew or not, right? Now, for the most part, it seems like the majority of the Straw Hats are happy that Yamato is joining, Sanji and Brook very much so, but the rest are either in shock or just need confirmation from Luffy before they'll be convinced. So it's a mixed bag in terms of Yamato joining right now, because again, most of the Straw Hats don't really know who Yamato is, but I think for the most part she will fit in very well within the Straw Hat. But one thing I do think she has to get rid of is the Odin mentality or cosplay that she's going on right now, because that Odin thing has to get out before she actually joins the crew. She has to join the crew as Yamato, being herself rather than someone else, right? So that's something that she has to let go before Luffy allows her to join, and for her not to be bound by the past and move on with her own story, right? So I think that's something that's going to be important for Luffy, and whether or not she drops that, we're gonna see. But having a new Straw Hat here definitely feels deserved, because this arc has been very long and we've been waiting for a new Straw Hat for a very long time now. So is Yamato going to join? More than likely, but we're not sure yet. I think that Odin thing has to be done with. But if Yamato does join, yeah, the Straw Hats are going to be extremely powerful. We're gonna have 3 advanced Conquerors users on the crew, and this would definitely solidify the Straw Hats as an elite pirate crew in the world. Not a lot of people are messing with the Straw Hats unless you're an admiral or a Yonko, let's be honest. Anything below that gets squashed, right? So the Straw Hats are looking like a powerful force right now. Now, Carrot is also someone else that could join, but I think we need to see more from that before we make any judgments. But Carrot is definitely on the list, but she's definitely lower than Yamato, I would say. Now, even though she didn't have any involvements in this arc as much as, Yamato, she could have in the future. Wano is not the end-all be-all for characters joining the crew, right? So we'll see how things play out. But overall, this chapter definitely hit the tick boxes of everything that you would want in a finale. Definitely a top chapter of Wano. But again, Wano isn't over. There's still more things that we need to talk about and deal with. So Wano is going to be here for a few more chapters till we get that sorted out. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Comment down below what you guys think. Hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and you can follow me on Twitter at FerroSpace. But it is Ferro, guys, and I will see you fuck later. Peace.